Hello everyone, my name is Alex. I'm a 2000 rated over-the-board chess player, and in this series we're going from 1000 to 2000 elo on chess.com rapid games. I'll be explaining my thought process as best as I possibly can for your education and entertainment. And today, my opponent plays a nonsensical opening. I assume he's going to go c4, and maybe he can transpose into a normal Slav line, but this is admittedly pretty confusing. But hey, let's just play normal moves. Knight f6. The question is going to be, how do we develop our bishop? Well, there's our answer. Bishop to g4. I think this is actually a Colle system. I think this is a Colle. And in the Colle, if I remember correctly, the main point is to delay developing your bishop, potentially develop the bishop to b2, and to strive for e4 in the future. So you either develop your bishop to e2 and go e4, or you go e4 and get your bishop out this way once e4 is achieved. Can we not go e5? E5, g4, e4, take. Then white still achieves to move e4 though. Maybe not. Maybe we just go e6, e4, take. And white has some problems defending the d4 pawn. We could start with knight d7 though. And to be honest, that's probably where our knight's going to go anyway. Like, go knight d7 and then try and go e5 with a bit more venom because our knight's helping out. Oh, wow. Okay, that can't be good. I mean, he's obviously terrified of me playing e5, but, like, that's not the way to deal with it. Queen c7 looks pretty tempting. Just literally just fighting for e5. Just fighting for e5. I know I could go like pawn e6, bishop d6 and e5, but I'd rather play this move in one go if I can. If I have to do this and then go e5, okay, cool, I'll do it. But if I can do it in one go, I'd much rather do that. And then we can get ourselves castled, and we should have a pretty nice position. We should be able to make a battery here, and hopefully exploit the fact that my opponent has made some dubious-looking moves in the opening. If you've watched the previous episodes of the speedrun, which, by the way, are linked in the playlist down below if you want to follow from the start, you'll know we've had a little bit of trouble the past couple of games, and I've played relatively well, but I think I've just lost concentration in a couple of them, and just bottled it, essentially. So let's see if we can do a better job this game and get our elo climbing back up towards that 2000 mark. White's position looks not amazing. c4 might have to be the game plan for him, but if he's playing the Colle, which I think he's intentionally playing, then that's not really the plan that you tend to go for. Yeah, he goes for pawn b3 to go bishop to b2, which is something I was mentioning earlier. Now, we could play the move e5. If pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes, I think we can take with the queen, because if he takes, I can take his rook. So let's go e5. If we can get the move e4 in, I think that black is clearly better. So let's take. Knight takes. We could take on e2 first. We don't have to, though. Like, we could take queen takes here, rook b1, preparing bishop to b2. It looks decent. It looks decent. We could even try to exploit this knight. Yeah. Let's take on e2 first. Now, he can't retreat his knight because his queen's under attack, so let's take back. Rook b1 is the only move. Preparing bishop b2 and saving the rook. I like the look of this, but I don't think it works. After bishop b2, queen g5, castles, I don't have time for knight to e4. So maybe something like bishop to d6 is good. Of course, castles would result in mate in 1. If knight to f3, maybe then bishop b4 is good. Maybe then. Because if bishop d2, trading the bishops might benefit us. Maybe? I don't know, though. What else can we do? I mean, we can play the immediate queen to g5. And if castles, white is, of course, preparing knight to f3 to attack my queen and force it away. I don't really have a good way of meeting that, to be honest. Again, I could go for the immediate bishop to b4, but white just castles, and this knight is absolutely fine. I could try and be cheeky and play queen c3 and meet this with this, but that doesn't seem to work because if castles queen c3, the knight can just move. And why is my queen on c3? I'm not even picking up c2. I could play the immediate queen c3. That way the knight can't move and c2 is under attack. If bishop b2, queen c2, kingside castle... no, then I have issues with my knight, and I don't really like that. So let's go bishop d6. I think the bishop belongs on d6. And if bishop b2, I don't have to go queen g5. Queen to f5 might be better, targeting c2. Because, of course, I don't want knight to f3 to come with tempo on my queen, which would have happened if I put the queen on g5. Knight f3 anyway. Of course, the queen now defends this square. Knight to e4 looks pretty tempting. If bishop takes, white's in all kinds of trouble. If knight to d4, I can't take on f2 because it's defended by the queen. Probably queen g6, eyeing up g2. Looks pretty good. And also, one of the good things about this position is my bishop is just a very powerful piece, making it... I'm basically discouraging white from castling kingside. However, he obviously can't castle queenside because his rook has already moved. Maybe there were ways for us to exploit white's position a bit better and get a bigger advantage from the opening. But, you know, 14 moves in, I think this is a pretty nice position to have with the black pieces. Knight d4 is played, but I don't really think it does that much. We could give this check, but c3, knight here, and knight takes c2, we're down a piece. That doesn't seem to work. No. Wait, here. I'm just noticing the alignment of the knight with the rook. I don't think there's a way we can... Sorry, the queen with the rook, but I don't think we can exploit it. I think just queen to g6. Maintaining this. Targeting this. White probably castles here. I don't really see another move. Otherwise, this is a problem. It's only not a problem for now because of c3. Whoa, okay. That I understand, but is this not an issue? Are you not concerned? This looks losing. My opponent, probably because I'm higher rated than him, goes for a quick queen trade, but this seems like it doesn't work. Because I put the white king in check. If the king goes to f1, then I have knight to d2 ideas. If c3, I can just take it. If the king goes to d1, I have knight to f2 ideas. So the king comes to e2. Maybe it can survive, but I mean... Looks a bit rough. Now, can I avoid the queen trade? I don't know. Something like queen to f6. I could just castle and say that my position is better, which it probably is. I could also go knight to c3. Oh, wait, knight c3 looks like a good move because after bishop c3, I don't take... I go... Oh, no, sorry, the knight defends that. I've been making enough blunders in the speedrun recently. I don't really want to make another one. We could go bishop to c3. It can't be touched because of knight takes with a fork. So bishop here, queen takes, h takes. The queen has no other infiltration spots. Again, I could just castle. I'm not threatening anything if I castle, but I can castle. I can go c5. Just messing with the knight. I could do this, but it doesn't really do anything. Just rook moves. Bishop c3. f3 can't be played because of knight to g3, even if the queens do come off the board. So he can't kick my knight away. Let's go bishop c3. I feel like this poses the most problems, because this can't be touched, and you can't go f3. So you can't take my bishop, you can't remove my knight. You can trade queens. I might even take with the f pawn, so I can get my rook on the f file. Maybe not. Let's take with the h pawn. I like taking with the h pawn because now our pawns do a really good job of restricting the knight's movement. So I like that. And it's equal material. My opponent's done a good job of wriggling out of the situation he was in and forcing a queen trade against my wishes. But he's definitely worse. I've got doubled pawns, but it doesn't really matter because all it's doing is helping my rook to be active. Knight goes back to f3, okay. Okay, if take, I'm not really accomplishing anything, so I don't want to do that. He still can't take me because I'll take. I'm tempted to go a5 to try and go a4. Maybe he's trying to stop knight d2, although I'm obviously not going to play that anyway. He also can't put a rook on d1 because of take and knight to c3 check. So that's pretty good. I like the look of a5. Let's do it. Maybe his idea is knight g5. Just try and distract my knight. If knight g5 takes... I can probably go bishop to e5 and go for a bishop versus knight position. Smart, a4. Could bring my king up. Although that allows bishop a3 check. Although maybe that's fine. We could go rook h5, which is just a decent square for the rook. b5 doesn't seem to do anything, because all it does is seem to weaken my d-pawn. Hey, maybe I can try and bait the move rook d1, but that's hope chess. Let's go rook h5. I like the look of that. If g4 trying to stop me from coming to f5, then I can obviously just retreat my rook and claim that this is a weakness, which it absolutely is. King d3, well, I can take here and then play knight to f2 check, picking up the rook. There's just so many different checks that my knight has. Like, the king literally cannot move. If he goes here, I have a check here. If he goes here, I have... Well, I don't actually, because the knight covers that, but the king shouldn't really go to f1 anyway, because it sucks there. If the king goes here, I obviously have a check here. The king on f1 makes no sense. Okay, he goes bishop to a3. Interesting. Interesting. Could drop my bishop back and threaten this. I could go here, but he probably just goes back. And I mean, I can force the bishop off for the knight, but I'd rather not do that prematurely. I could go rook to f5. If this, I could toy with these ideas, but I don't think they're amazing, really, because this rook is obviously defended. I mean, if I do go here, then he can't move his knight because I'll win the f2 pawn. If here, yeah, he can't move because of this. So I think that's a good idea. If he goes g4, I can probably just drop my bishop, sorry, my rook back to f6. And it ties the king down to the defense of the knight. which is pretty useful. There may be tactics that I can use to remove the king's defense from the knight as well in the future. So black definitely has all the pressure here. Black is applying all the pressure. It may be a drawn position, but if anyone's going to win this, it's... What? That's interesting. I mean, clearly the point is if I take, then the king will take here, and after takes, white gets 2 pieces for the rook. Sure, I understand that. What about this? What about this? Because if you go here, I go here, right? If I go here and you take me, I mean, I could take back, but that's not really taking advantage of the situation. If bishop b4, knight to f2 check, king e2, knight h1. If you take, then I take your bishop, and I'm up an exchange. And if you... Well, you can't stop my knight from getting back out to g3. That's the problem. That's the problem. My knight will escape. If you do something like, I don't know, bishop c5. Oh, there is that. There is that. Huh. King d7? Bishop to f4? I mean, I could take it and do something like this. And I'm up a pawn. That's decent. I could queenside castle, actually. With an attack on the bishop. Although... Oh no, bishop e7, I have a check here, check, and then I'm good. Queenside castle, bishop to... I mean, the bishop could go to h2. Could go to h2. And then how am I saving it? Completely missed this idea. Honestly, I've been having a terrible few episodes on the speedrun, really have. King d7. If bishop here, I take it. But bishop h2 is the problem. And then I'm just in a worse endgame. Okay, is there anything else I can do? Is there anything else? I can queenside castle, bishop h2, rook e8, rook to h1. I just don't have any threats, do I? Let's see if he falls for this. See if he falls for this. He might do. He might do. No. Okay. We could play d4. Maybe that's a good move, because if here check and I cause some problems on the second rank, if here and he takes my knight, take, if king takes, rook c5, and I have some good counterplay. I don't think I've got anything else. Let's go d4. I need to try and do something quickly. If knight takes, again, I do have rook f2. I could even consider sacking my rook and going knight to f2. But I don't love that plan. Rook f1. My opponent's just sent me blunder questions in the chat. I'm not really sure why, because I don't see what else I can do. I feel like this is probably the best move. Maybe e4 is best from white, but then I go rook c5 and I've got a powerful pawn. Whoa, why did he do that? Check. Here, 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 and I win the knight. If check and the king goes to the back rank, then he's not winning my knight. I think my opponent's just blundered, which is fantastic for us. King here. Take attacking the bishop. Take winning my knight. c5. And the knight can't be saved. And I should just be in an exchange up endgame there. And the rook can't really move because I'll win the bishop. So if I move like bishop to f4, take on d4, pawn takes d4. I mean, we're just better. We're just better. I did consider sacrifices and getting the knight out, but like, this is clearly the better option. If I'm correct, rook g2. I mean, I could have played c5 immediately. I can play c5 straight away, but I think that this way I win a pawn and have pressure on the bishop. So I've got to go c5, not giving the knight a chance to escape. My opponent also had to take my knight, not only to defend his bishop, but also to stop knight to f2 check, getting my knight out of danger. I think f6 is the most accurate move. Not taking, but kicking the bishop away first, because the knight is still pinned. He can't unpin. My opponent resigns! Wow, he resigns. He offers me a rematch, but I'm not going to accept it. Okay, he's spamming with rematches. I think he's annoyed because he gave me a bunch of blunder emojis for the move d4, although it's clearly the best move in the position. And my idea was essentially, if rook takes h1, I take on e3, and if king takes, I can create some kind of counterplay maybe. And the computer seems to agree with me. So anyway, let's jump into the analysis. There we go. So e4, sorry, not e4, d4, c6, e3. I mean, he's just going for a roundabout way of playing the Colle. Knight f6, knight f3, bishop g4. This is just good for black, really. We've almost equalized. And like I said during the game, c4 should be what white goes for, to play like a Slav. But this is a good version of the Slav because my bishop is already outside the pawn chain and your bishop is locked in. So he goes h3, bishop to h5, knight b to d2, knight to d7. Bishop back to e2 is just a strange move. I went queen c7. Not the best move. e6 is apparently better, but I wanted to try and play the move e5. So b3, which is a common idea in the Colle, e5, de5. The best move is actually knight e4, threatening knight c3, picking up the queen, because the queen is stuck. So bishop b2, bishop b4, with pins going everywhere, castles. But I actually don't see why we would just give up a pawn like this. Knight e5 looks better. Knight e5. Okay, the computer actually preferred the immediate queen e5 and after rook b1. Not trading the bishops, but bishop g6. And after bishop to b2, queen e6. But, okay, I trade the bishops. Take on e5, rook b1. Position's completely equal, but if anyone can push here, it's black. I go bishop d6, bishop b2. Queen f5, knight f3. Here? Yeah, no, knight e4 is the best move. I can't go bishop to b4 straight away. What? Well, I can. Oh, yeah, I can. The king just has to move. And I'm not winning, but I'm certainly better. Computer wants this, which looks a little bit insane to me. But, okay. Computer can do whatever it wants, I suppose. Knight e4. Knight to d4. Queen g6. Queen g4. We are better. We go bishop b4 check. Not the best move. Castling is better, but bishop b4. King e2, the only move to not lose. c3 loses to knight c3. And everything is under attack. If you take my queen, I take on b1 with check. You can't take back because my bishop is checking. And I have to take, and take. Black is up an exchange. But king e2. Queen f6 was the best move. I went for this. Queen g6, hg6. Knight f3. We go a5. White needs to go knight g5, which is a move that I did see during the game. And I was planning to go for this position. I thought that my bishop was much better than his knight here. The point is, if I take, then white takes. And I could go for this position, but then I hang the g7 pawn. The computer, instead of a5, wanted f6, which makes a lot of sense in retrospect. But a5, a4, I go rook to h5, which isn't the best move. Again, the computer wants f6, but it's still decent. Bishop to a3, which I thought was odd. I went rook to f5, just applying a lot of pressure. King to d3. And here I went bishop to b4, which is a good move. But there's an even better move, which I did briefly consider, but I was enamored with the idea of bishop to b4. Well, there's two other moves the computer likes. One of them's b5. If white takes, then c takes. I don't really know why this is so good, but maybe the point is you anchor the bishop in. No, oh, it's opened the c file the computer wants to do. Okay, well, I go for this, bishop b4. And here, I should have just taken. And the point is, the king can't go back because I still have knight c3. So rook to f1 defending. And I basically say that white's position is paralyzed, and I can kind of do whatever I want. You can't move the knight because you hang the f-pawn. You can't move the king because you hang this. If you move this rook to, like, I don't know, d1, you're still not doing anything. I could even try and break through on the queen side, but I took on f2. And I completely missed bishop d6, the only move. Or there's even bishop e1. But that actually blocks the rook's attack on the knight. I was thinking, well, if the bishop retreats and I just have knight g3 and I escape. And I was also like, if, what was it? If rook takes and this, then I'm obviously just an exchange up. I completely missed bishop d6. I queenside castle, which is the best move. Initially, I was thinking this, but then I thought that this knight to e5 move could come with checks in the future. Also, rook d1 could be annoying in the future. So I thought the king was safer on c8. Bishop h2. And yeah, the best move here is to go d4. And there's only one move here for white, and it's taking. He has to take. After de3, taking isn't even that good because of rook e8 check. And after king f2, b5, and black applies some decent pressure. The knight can't move. The king is kind of stuck. If my opponent offers me a rook trade, he can, but like my rook is actually quite powerful. Instead, he took on d4. And he misses rook f2 check. King d3. Of course, if you go to d1, not only is there a pin, but there's also rook to f1 picking up the rook. And if king to e1, I can just take on g2. And you're not threatening this because your king's in the way. Your bishop probably has to move, and I'm still going to win your rook. So it's bad. He chooses the better option of king d3. We take on g2, which is the best option. Rook h1, and here we have to play the move c5. If white does something like bishop to f4, there is g5 actually, which is even better, and forcing the bishop back to h2 to make it an even bigger liability. My opponent went bishop to e5, the idea being if take, I'm still winning, but white has more chances, but f6 is by far the best move, and my opponent resigns. But if the bishop retreats, then of course I just take, and have to take g5 or something. I mean, I can try and push these pawns. This bishop is a massive liability because it's so cut out of the game. and the rook has to maintain its defense of the bishop. The best move in this position is actually king to c3. And if fe5, knight b5, and if here, then bishop takes. But yeah, I mess up a bit, my opponent messes up a bit. A very interesting game against, you know, a very unorthodox opening from my opponent. But we did a very good job to get a better position out of the opening. I just could have managed it a little bit better. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see another really interesting video of actually me using the Colle system myself, which my opponent was using today, check out the video up here. And if you want to see the previous episodes of the speedrun, check out the playlist down there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in one of those videos.